stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start.
Hello, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another mastering stream. We're going to be mastering a song live, and then we're going to only use Reaper stock plugins and JSFX, so it's all free for all of you cheapos out there. And yeah, if you have questions, you ask them away, and that's how that goes. So I got with me, as usual, Leandro below me. And I have to my, this side, Darren.
Hello.
How you
hello,
doing,
hello.
Darren?
How you doing?
Good,
I'm
good.
doing all right. Sorry if you hear a lot of AC noise, but it's really hot in here, and I care about not being hot more than I care about sound. So one of the few things I care more about than sound. So deal with it, everybody.
So, I guess we are going to be working on one of my songs, right? I have a question. And the question is, you do a lot of educational material for people to learn how to master material. And the question is, what do you think is worth trying to master yourself? And when do you think it is better to go to someone like you who offers mastering services?
Great question. And it's twofold. It is twofold. I mean, I honestly think that there's no better way to learn than just muck it in and trying anything yourself. But I suppose it gets to a stage where if you find that you're compromising the song, then that's probably the best time to reach out and get someone else to master it for you. But I think if you master your songs diligently and just take care and don't try to, go overboard, now, I don't see why you couldn't, master any track that you've got or any song you've done. I think it's just a case where if you get to a stage where you feel you're compromising the song, I would say that's probably the best point at that time to reach out and get someone else to master it for you.
Fair. And for the exercise we are going to go through today, do you think it's better for us to pick a song that is very minimal, only one or two things, so that we can perhaps get it to a finer point of detail? Or do you think it's better for us to get something busy with lots of parts so that we have more stuff to go through?
Either's fine. I think just for the sake of the stream, it may be worth not choosing something where one may need to go externally into something like RX. So if you've got something that can all be done inside a Reaper, think of something. I mean, it's really difficult to say until we actually get the song up and we start going through the song. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways we can take it. Use quite a minimal setup. Like I say, we're going to try and use all Reaper stock or JS plugins. And we'll just give it, we'll just see what we can do. We'll see what we can do with it, really. I don't mind either way.
One note I would add also about your earlier question, Leandro, is that, and this applies to you as well, like you write all your songs and you record all your songs and you play all the instruments and you mix it yourself. So to me, it's like the perfect opportunity at the mastering stage to at least get like one more person involved. Like your ears are just done with the song, but by the point that you're done with the mix. Yeah.
And I
just the
suppose
extra
you are
note.
in a similar situation. So do you do that for
Exactly.
all your songs, or do you do it for just a few songs, maybe the ones you would maybe select as a single?
Yeah, I mean, like I try to get everything mastered by somebody else, and of course I ask for a lot of feedback like along the way, um, which is why I really miss also streaming my mixing. That was a lot of fun when my computer would let me do that. Yeah, just it's good to get like other ears, I would say, on anything that you're doing. Um, And Mike has a question from Let's Talk About Reaper. Hello, Mike, and hello, CBC voter and Trexion as well. Can you explain phase shifts with regards to EQ and things like Bertum's EQ analyzer that shows such things? Leandro, do you want to take this? Because I know you're in DSP territory, very deep.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so for people who don't know what Burton EQ Analyzer is, it is a great little tool. I use it a lot in my streams when I'm doing more development stuff. And also when I'm just trying to understand what the plugin is really doing under the hood. It will play some audio that is like test audio. It is just a train of pulses, a train of impulses. So think of a bunch of clicks, and it will run the clicks through a plugin, presumably something like an EQ. And on the other end, it is going to plot a frequency response of that plugin, or chain of plugins for that matter, which is typically not something that plugins that try to do like analog emulation would do, right? You wouldn't see a frequency response graph. In something like a re-EQ, you do see that, but in things that are like your Pultec emulations, for instance, typically don't draw that curve, and it is sometimes helpful to understand what the plugin is doing in terms of that graph. So that's all that plugin does. But to the more general question of what is phase shift, well, anytime that you're trying to EQ, for instance, you need to, on a very rough level, you need to shuffle samples around. Some of them will have to be delayed, and some of them will have to be perhaps even brought in back in time. And that's why some kinds of filters require latency. But anyway, you are going to be shifting the samples in time, and that will have some consequences, one of which is the filter that you're looking for, but there are some side effects that you may not want. So if you're applying a filter, for instance, to something that has a sharp transient, that sharp transient may be smeared in time because you are pushing the samples back and forth in time for the filter to do what it needs to do. That's a very rough
Yeah.
explanation. If you're interested in knowing the nitty-gritty of how to do a filter by pushing samples around and all of that, Arya and I did a great stream. I'm really proud of that one, where we coded a very simple filter from scratch, from the basic principles. And yes, it has some coding in that stream, but we go into the theory of the thing, and you can see how, let's say, pushing samples around can result in things like low-pass filters.
I really enjoyed that stream too. I was gonna mention it as well. Um, and yeah, like that really kind of like something clicked for me when we did that. So yeah, highly recommend it, Mike, to check it out. Mike's also saying he compared a few SSL channel strip plugins, and the zigzag pattern of IKM's British channel versus the straight line of SSL native confused me. You're talking about like the kind of phase shift plot that I mean, even something like the Psyche Spectral Analyzer has that too. Um, I always found that like phase shift graph, when you're actually playing like music through it, it's just too fast to process with the eye, and I find that it doesn't tell me much more than if I'm just comparing like a few plugins. just like which one sounds nicer. And like if I don't exactly get why, I can live with that. I don't know. What do you think, Leandro?
Yeah, I use the graph of the phase shift is showing you how much that frequency has been pushed around in time, and in very rough terms. And I don't find that very useful when I am like analyzing just different instruments or that sort of thing. It can come in handy if you are miking the same source with multiple microphones. It may come in handy to look at the phase of the different microphones if you're trying to align their phases. And I guess it's also useful if you're doing some parallel processing, because the parallel filters may introduce some phase shift that would result in cancellation when it's added back to the original signal, which is actually an interesting question that we may or may not have covered in the previous stream with Darren. Do you do these sorts of parallel processing? Do you ever care about linear phase EQs or that natural phase EQ that some EQs have?
As a general rule of thumb, no. However, I think it's just one of those things again. Just try and experiment. And I don't tend to use that many analog emulations. For example, I try and use, I hate the word, but as clean an EQ as I can use. Now, in terms of linear phase, I don't tend to default to that. I'll try and see what results I can get with a standard EQ. But once again, I also try and stick away from analog emulations as much as possible as well for EQ, unless I'm going for a particular color or flavor, etc. But as a general rule of thumb, it's not something I would default to for a linear phase EQ. I think sometimes you can do more harm than good by using that as a default. So see what I can do with a standard EQ first, and if I need to reach for a linear phase, then I'll do so.
And of course, as usual, I think Dan Worrell is a great person to study with this stuff, because he whips out the plugin doctor, and it seems like a lot of the time, like linear phase just kind of results in a slightly different cue. And of course, there are special cases where, like in case of parallel processing, it could get you in trouble. But really, just like, for me, I'm so unsure still after years of doing this stuff that like the EQ stuff I'm doing is making matters better. That like if I get my curves right, like I'm not worried about like a little phase shift here, a little cancellation there, because I know if I like put the boost in a good spot, if I cut things right, I feel like I cut well, I don't boost well. Like getting those bits right, it's gonna sound so much better. And then the trouble, like, I don't know, maybe I have too lenient of an attitude toward that kind of stuff. Like, do it, phase shift, schmaze shift, get some phase, whatever. Get a goniometer. A Toucan plugin has one. That I find, like, my eyes and can process it, and I'm like, okay, like I did some insane things in this section of the song. I just did a remix for a friend of mine, and once I was done completely with the composition and all the mixing, I just put a goniometer there, and I was like, okay, overall it sounds good, but this bit is just objectively too wide. So then how can you kind of tackle that wideness? And then I went and saw that I was doing some weird stuff with the EQ, so just kind of reduce the weirdness, and then it was back in business.
It's another one of those great reasons to also try when you're mixing mono, because when you fold it down to mono, you'll soon notice what parts disappear. So if you've got a particular element that you just no longer hear, then you know that something's probably likely to be amiss with potentially with phase. So it's probably one of those things where always try to do not necessarily mix completely in mono. You don't want to do that, but at some point just reference it, just to see if you can get that clarity from all of the different instruments. Then hopefully that way you're going to be onto a pretty good path before it goes onto the mastering stage.
speaking of the mastering stage, shall we get down to business?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Right. So Arya had a favorite from the songs that we have worked on the streams that you think would make a good candidate for mastering. And I agree. I think it will be kind of fun because I think it was the latest song that we worked on, even though it has been a while. So I guess the next step is I need to prepare this for mastering, because when we were working on the song, I did the thing you were not supposed to do. And I slapped a bunch of effects on the master channel and then I released it. But now
I
that I'm
would say though, I wouldn't agree that you're not supposed to do that. I think you're are supposed to do that. I think
Yeah,
like opinions vary on whether like how early you should do that. Like, should you put on a multi-band compressor and mix into it? I don't know. I like doing it, to be honest. It speeds up like my workflow for sure.
Yeah.
And people can come at me about that, but to me, it's not like something you shouldn't do. You should have stuff on your master track as part of the mixing.
If you think about top-down mixing as a prime example, then you start from the master. Effectively, you start from the master with normally some form of general EQ and probably bus compression. So if you're doing certainly top-down mixing, then you're going to have things on there. I think the what I would say is certainly no limiter. Because if you put a limiter on there, then you're basically you're brickwalling it before it even goes to mastering. Then it's kind of like it's very difficult to really do anything outside of that. But if it's like color EQ, color compression, just a little bit of bus compression overall, glue, whatever you want to call it, there's no issue with that.
Okay. So do you think I should just send you the WAV file, or do you think I should go back into my Reaper session and take out some of the stuff we put there? Because I do have a limiter there.
Maybe let's go check out the project. Maybe let's go take a look at the project.
Okay. I will say this.
And we'll cover like the rendering phase in case anybody has trouble with that. Though I know like Mage and Mike don't, but yeah, just in case.
I will say I'll say this. I will try to open the project. I am not making any guarantees because it has been a while, and you know how these things go. Plugins update, things go broken, and I don't know if the project is going to still open, but we'll give it a try. So here we are on my computer, and this is kind of an old project, so it's under here on songs. I hope that there is nothing too embarrassing here. And it is called You Probably Don't Need to Shower as Often as You Do. There you go. That's the song. And we'll try to open the
All right, we're back. Sorry, everybody. Stuff happens. This is how YouTube, or not YouTube, streaming. This just happens. So yeah, it happens. And so Leandro is opening a project, but in the meantime, Darren, you are gonna mention another thing about Leandro's first question about like when should you master your own stuff and when you should get somebody else involved.
May I interject? I have another idea. So here's what's up. I opened the project. It is opened right now, but it has 1,000 tracks with 1,000,000 plugins in this. So the stream quality is suffering a lot. I'm not even sure that we are like at 25 frames per second right now. It doesn't look like it on my side, just because there's so much stuff going into this project. So how about we just get this bounced as soon as possible and I can close it and then the stream quality will go back up and then we can talk about these other things. Can we do that?
Sounds good, yeah.
All right.
YouTube is getting me errors as well, so let us know if you're watching, if it's looking weird or if you even can hear me. Am I even real and am I alive and how do you exist if nobody can see or hear you?
Yeah, if no one hears you, do you make a sound? Right, so here we are. This is the project, and I don't want to necessarily listen to the project here. I think we just need to get stuff out of the master. So let's see what we have on the master.
Yeah.
I have some loudness treatment. I think that this is literally just reducing some, but that's okay. Reducing 2 dB. And then we have EQ, we have a bit of compression, and then we have the limiter, which is adding a boost of almost 5 dB. So let's take that out. And then a loudness meter. So I think we should be able to bounce like this and it should be okay, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
people are saying video is really slow and they can't. Can you hear me in the bass too?
That is less busy, and we'll keep talking as I render because you all know how to render a project. Nothing too interesting here, I don't think. I would just keep the sample rate, the bit depth, all the same as we recorded. So nothing fancy going on. And you can continue having that conversation you wanted to have while I am doing this bouncing.
I don't know if people are hearing us at all. So I don't know if our voice or video, our video is definitely like not happening. And I don't know what about audio.
I think that the audio will be okay. Usually video is bad, but audio is okay. And I'm promising, I'm closing this project in 5 minutes. It will be okay.
Okay.
But yeah, continue having that conversation you guys were having while I was fixing the stream.
Yeah, Darren, you wanna get into that?
Yeah, so it's just recapping when we was mentioned about, you know, when do you get a master engineer involved, and you raised a fantastic point, which was just getting a second set of ears. And this was the thing for me, is actually it's just recapping on the whole notion of part of the master engineer's role is to ensure that we are achieving the client's expectations. So when you first create a song, you have you might have a certain sound or a certain emotion you're trying to portray, and as part of, when you're going through, you're creating the song, like you're saying, you're recording it, you're editing it, you're mixing it, and then if you're mastering it, are you objective enough to then go back to when it was those first initial thoughts? Does it sound like how you wanted it to sound? And as part of the mastering engineer's role is to actually get that information from your client and try and work out what sound they're looking for, what kind of emotion they're trying to portray, and then be that objective set of ears to say, well, I don't think you've quite got it there yet. And then you've then got something to aim at when it comes to mastering. So that is, I think that's something that I would certainly recommend. If you want to get the second set of objectives enough, the master stage is quite to it.
People are saying that audio is now also being weird. So
that's because I am now rendering the project. God damn it. We are trying to do too much. My computer is dying here.
All right, fine. Let's just see what happens. I'm just going to start
speaking.
Uh,
I don't know. It will be
Just a question in
over.
the chat. See if there's any plugins that anyone wants to use, anyone wants to see.
It will be over in 1 minute and 15 seconds, well, and 10 seconds. I mean, this we just took out the limit. Should I just go back and reduce the level by like 10?
You had something on the master that was a bit apart from the limit. Something else controlling things.
Template, so I think it should be easy.
Okay, good talk.
on this mix.
Yeah, that mix was a whole mess. Yeah, we only have 10 samples that clipped, so let's just go along with that because otherwise the stream will suffer so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm out of Reaper now. Things should be going back to normal in terms of video quality. I can see myself much smoother now. So I think we'll be back in a good shape. Darren, how do you like to receive files? Do you like to receive them via some kind of tool that you have for your own workflow, or do you just get WAV files via some email or something?
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of different ways. It might be best just for the sake of this here, do a quick WeTransfer. Then if you copy the link and stick it in the Skype chat, then I can just quickly download the file from there.
Okay.
Or you got my email, whatever's easiest.
Yeah, no, okay. I just thought that perhaps you would have a system in place that you use for all your clients and that it would be easy for me to just go there. But yeah, I can certainly send the file to you real quick. And in fact,
yeah, I mean,
I'll do you one better.
Leandro, apparently there's no video or something. Definitely there's no video on, and now probably you'll start pushing in a second.
Yes, I am pushing data to YouTube again, so things should be back now. If we still sound like crap, then I guess I will reboot the computer. That always works.
Great stuff. No, that's great. Just a quick question. Let's have a quick look here. Was it 44.1? What bit depth was the song recorded in?
I want to say 24.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Great
You
stuff.
usually do, 4824.
Yeah, that's what I usually do, but I'm now double checking just to be sure.
Also, I think in Windows, if you just right-click and go to Properties, it'll tell you bit depth, sample rate, and channel count.
Project settings.
Yeah,
So
it is 24 bits per sample, 48K stereo, 3 minutes 14 seconds.
Are we back, folks? Let us know if we are back, and if everything's normal. Looks normal to me, but I don't know what's going on for all of y'all.
Just changed that there. Great. Well, I've got the Reaper session open here, and I've got the file inside of the session.
Yeah, and I'll say this again because it probably got chopped up before. So Arya, can you put the link in the description or in the chat so that people can hear the file?
Yeah, link is in the chat.
All right.
If you wanna listen, and I don't think Leandro would mind if you want to practice your mastering on this mix or anything like that.
Yeah, no,
right,
it
Leandro?
is. I'm therefore claiming it is Creative Commons. Go ahead.
Great.
Yeah, and people in the chat are saying that the stream is back in the good state. Thank you all.
Great. Thanks for staying put, everybody.
Fantastic. So should we have a little listen then?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let me just quickly refresh this. In fact, let's take that out. Like I said, I was going to do all Reaper. So let's do the 2 screens. Don't you love working with 2 screens? Right, okay, let's do JS. And we want the loudness meter. It's somewhere around here, isn't it? Loudness meter.
Loudness.
That's
beautiful.
the one. So let's just move that down the bottom of the screen here. So this, I'm not really going to take too much attention to the loudness meter for the time being. We'll play it through, and let's have a nice pretty colour. What colour should we go for? Let's have a nice shade of blue, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh, don't that look nice?
Or shower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Perfect. Right. Okay. Now I'm going all analog. Yeah.
All right.
Pen and paper. So we'll play this through. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
I'm ready.
We've tested this already. So let's have a listen.
I'd like to do a song of great social and political import. This is a song about people in their third shower of the day. A song about people who shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They stink, but don't be so afraid. Once a week may be too little, but there I say, once a day may be too much. Unless you've been exercising, or it's been a really hard day. Everybody now, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
Woo!
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Bravo.
Right.
Still relevant after all these years.
Right. So, let's quickly get rid of that for a second. So, what do I think? Excuse me. There's a few things that it's not really that anything major. There's probably a little bit at the low end, but I'm thinking it's more around balance. A few of the words that I wrote down were controlling the thump. So it's basically just having a little bit more control and maybe just a little bit more, maybe some cleaning up down there. So maybe a little bit of some form of low cut, but just real low, probably around about 30 hertz, 40 hertz, something like that. Maybe just a little bit more. It's quite an interesting one because I've made reference to having a bit of a mid-range bump, but also a little bit more air because I can hear the high frequencies, but they're coming from the acoustic guitars, and it's maybe just trying to give a bit more air and life because it's going to pick up some of the vocal in there. There's not the electric guitar bit. I want to try and maybe have a look to see the correlation between that and the bass. That's normally something I find that's normally a challenge. So maybe it's a case of we may look at some form of mid-side EQ. And then we spoke about this in the last live stream, didn't we? About reverbs and maybe cutting some of the low end of the reverbs. So maybe once again, maybe we'll have a look at some mid-side, maybe do a bit of a roll off on the low end of the sides as well. So I've got a few kind of pointers there. Just kind of work with, and we'll just start going through. Just to kind of give everyone a bit of an overview. This is pretty much how I start. It's just listening to the track all the way through. Like I say, I'll put it through the loudness meter. It didn't really kind of show too much in terms of it obviously showed the peaks going up to 0. It'd be interesting to see as we go through again. I can see from the waveform you've obviously got some peaks here, and around here. So it's individual transients. So it's going to be interesting to see how that reacts. One thing I'd just quickly like to do as well. We'll come on to that in a second. So yeah, we may have to do a little bit of control work on here. Let's just quickly, before we do anything else, I just want to get the master track up as well. So let's do track. Where's the master track? Insert master track. Show master track. So I'm going to put this on here for no other reason than I just want to see the reaction of the track to the limiter. So we have got the new limiter. What's the new limiter called?
Real limit.
That's the one we use when mixing.
That's it. So it's not a JS, it's real limit. There. So let's have a look here. So all I'm going to do here is do your threshold here. Let's leave that as default. So for control there, brick wall ceiling, I'm going to put this at -1, just to fall in line with digital releases. I'm going to put it in true peak mode because that's really what we want to do. Is we want to measure the true peaks. So brick wall ceiling. Okay, and then we'll just play some of the track. I'm going to play probably around. Let's play this end bit here.
I have a question before we move on with this.
Yep.
The question is more of a high-level question. How representative is this of the typical material you get for mastering? Because you do work with independent artists and I guess upcoming artists. So is this the kind of thing that you see on a daily basis?
It's all sorts, really. It really is all sorts, and you get stuff through from all different levels. I've never really got to. There's been a couple which I've kind of rejected, but we're talking like cases where it's super squashed before it's even been mastered, like +4 or 5 dBs true peak. So it's like super clipped, just smashed to bits before it even gets to mastering. So there are a few occasions where I've kind of gone back and said, well, look, it's not ready to master. You need to go back to the mix and obviously look more into headroom and your compression. But you get a full range, really. We've done stuff with, so I've done stuff for Ari, I've done stuff for actually just last week I did one for Mike. And, you get various different stages of mixes, so it's not as if there's kind of like a good or a bad mix. They're all a bit different, and sometimes it's a case of once again just going back to that education piece and saying to the client, okay, I think you're almost there, but if you try this in the mix, then I think we'll get a better master from it. I think we'll come to that in a second when we put it for the limiter, and we just see what the clippings, what it's going to do with the actual the clips. But does that make sense?
Yes, and I do have another question about your comment. You said that the low end may need a little cut, and I wonder if that is because we mixed this song well in the stream, so we were wearing headphones to prevent feedback. Do you think that we would have better results if we had like studio monitors and not be mixing on headphones? Do you think that that was the cause?
It's a great question, and it's not really one that I can answer. And the reason I say this is because it depends on how well you know your headphones. And I think this is where it comes back to, you must know your referencing system. So on the flip side, you could have 8-inch monitors, but you could be in a super small room and the bass could be overwhelming. So if you're in that kind of situation, then actually headphones might make better, a better reference tool for low end. So it depends on lots of things. Depends on how well you know your headphones, what headphones you're using, what the bass response is on the headphones, and then likewise, it's also the same for your reference monitors as well. Are they hyped in the low end? Are the speakers necessarily too big for your environment? What's the treatment like? It's really come down to referencing and knowing your monitoring system. So if you know your headphones really well, there's absolutely no reason why you can't master on headphones. A lot of people are now transitioning to headphones. I've tried it.
And
it's
I
not really for me.
think the amount of low end cut that you're suggesting, Darren, is like really, really low, right?
Yeah.
Like even with a lot of speakers, it would be hard to hear. And I think this is again another good kind of reason to use another person to master. Because I mean, Leandro, when you were mixing this song, we were trying to get your vocals to shine. We were trying to get the reverb on that last kind of chorus right. We were trying to get the tone of your guitar right. Like from a creative perspective, kind of getting the low end in control is not a priority. There's so many other things happening on the track that you should be focusing on and making those sound nice and kind of highlighting those. And then a mastering engineer can actually kind of be like, well, what's going on in the background? Like, what are the foundations of the track kind of needing? So I don't think you did anything wrong, kind of not spending, an hour on the low end. And now the mastering engineer is here to do that.
Yeah, and when I say control, this isn't about completely re-engineering the low end. When I say control, I'm basically just trying to create a little bit more of I use the word tighter low end. So rather than it being a more broad kind of reverberant sound, it's giving it more control. So it's making it sound more, probably more refined. The low end, when we take away some of the low end, like Aria said, it's not we can really hear it, but what it's actually going to do is it's just going to add a little bit more clarity. So it's going to take away, I don't want to say necessarily muddiness, but it's going to just take away some information that you don't really need. But it's more just giving a bit more definition to the low end. That's probably a better way to explain it rather than anything else. It's to say, once again, there's nothing particularly wrong. It's just giving it a little bit more definition, just control. So let's just.
By the way, do you have subs, Darren, or just speakers?
No, I don't. No, the monitors I'm using, for anyone who wants to know, these are the Focal. They are the Alpha Evo Twins. So they got each speaker's got two 6.5-inch drivers and one, I think it's 1 inch or 1.5 inch tweeter. So they're not full freeway. They are, I think they classify them as 2.5 way, because technically the drivers are both 6.5 inch rather than one being a mid-range and one being a full bass driver, but they are kind of a 2.5. I've toyed with the idea of subwoofers, but to be fair, these go down pretty low. So these go down somewhere around about 35 hertz, something like that. So they go down quite low anyway. And once again, I'm just going back to the whole thing about the room. And one of the things I know about this room is if I put too much low end in here, I know it will just start to bounce around. So it's just something I'm a bit cautious of. But I'm not, at the moment, I don't find that I'm struggling with the low end too much at the moment. So I feel I've pretty much got it spot on. but it may come a time in the future when I may look to introduce some kind of sub somewhere down the line.
I have another question.
Nice.
How come we are not getting feedback from you? How come you can hear the song and you can hear us talking without that getting into your microphone?
It's because I put my microphone on mute.
Oh.
I thought of this earlier on, because the thing is, I was going to put headphones on, and once again, going back to the whole thing about referencing, I'm not comfortable using the headphones. I know these speakers like anything, so when I do it, if you hear me go a bit silent, it's just because I will mute myself in Skype, so we don't get the feedback. So let's just take a listen here. So what I'm looking for is the actual peak. It's not necessarily a concern, but once again, when it comes to, we was discussing this about the clipping, and if there is a little bit, maybe it's like a couple of instances of clipping in the track. Now, to fall in line with digital releases, once again, we'll be looking at a true peak figure of -1 dB, there or thereabouts. So we'll do -1 dB. If you are anything over -1, then it's instantly going to trigger the limiter. So I just want to, at this stage in time, I'm not doing anything with the threshold. I just want to put the ceiling on now, and I just want to see what the gain reduction is just in this particular section here at the end. And we can see we got these peaks in here. So let's just take a listen and let's have a look to see what the limiter is actually doing.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
Hey, look at that.
That looks fine. It looks fine there. I just want to check as well. Let's just move this a little bit further up top of the screen. Let's move it. Just want to get this up here.
Let me make sure I understand. Nothing happened, right? The limiter never triggered.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
Let me just quickly test something. That's the input. It's the input. I'm not worried about the input. So that's a stereo file. Rear limit. Does it always show just one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's not me going mad then. It is just rear limit. Only shows the actual. It looks like just a mono signal, but it's obviously not. It's just the way it shows it.
Yeah. And now that you're saying this, I should know the answer to this because I looked into real limit a whole lot when drawing waveforms. But I think that what it's doing is just adding the two signals. So if you had phase cancellation, it would be not triggering at all, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Let's just quickly play this area because there's a few.
Spiky
See this
bits,
one,
yeah.
this here. This may be the culprit. It probably looks about fine. There's a few things that I think this may be just. We'll quickly come on. We'll discuss that in a minute. Let's quickly play it and let's just see what it does in the limiter.
But you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They speak, but don't be so afraid.
I wonder too if we set the threshold to -1, then we're gonna be kind of starting to catch some stuff, right?
Yeah, all I was doing here is just to quickly go back to the whole conversation around headroom. And this is probably a great example just to explain about headroom. So it's effectively, it's just allowing a little bit of a couple of dBs before it goes into the before it goes off to mastering. And was having this discussion with someone earlier on, actually. They were saying, well, -6, -6, -6. As a mastering engineer, you don't have to use -6. It's something that kind of come from quite a while ago in regards to analog. And it used to be a kind of a good figure to feed. I think it was actually when it was going back to the days of tape. I think it used to be a good level to kind of feed the tape. But this whole -6 thing, you don't need to worry about it. As long as it's not clipping, we can gain it up, we can gain it down. Now, what I might do is I might just quickly drag. Oh no, I don't want to drag that. See if I can just drag the. In fact,
hang on. I think that there is a quirk of relimit that may be affecting the results. I think that what you're going for is you would like to not change the level of the track at all and just have a ceiling of -1 dB, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think that for that to occur, you would need a threshold of -1 and a brick wall ceiling of -1, and then it would not change in the level. Right now, I think it is decreasing the level of the track by 1 dB.
By 1.
And then applying the brick wall.
But the threshold, is that either gain or is that the actual threshold of the compression?
That is an offset with respect to the brick wall ceiling.
Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of make the example quite insane, if your threshold is at -12,
yep,
and your brick wall ceiling is at -1, it'll take whatever hits -12 will be -1, and then if it hits like -14, it'll be -3. So in this case, whatever hits 0, which is nothing, will be -1, and if something hits -1, it'll be -2.
Yeah, the way that I like to think of it is I put both the threshold and the brick wall ceiling at 0, or really at the same value. And then I click on constant gain so that the two sliders will move in tandem and I will have constant gain, which I guess is what we are going for. Constant gain is what we're going for, right?
Just for this example, though, I didn't want to put any volume into it. And I think that was the reason why I'm not using it as a limiter. I'm just testing to see where the peaks are. That's all I was doing with this.
Yeah.
So this is effectively, it's like your gain control, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah. So I think you need to engage the constant gain setting.
Yeah, I'll come on to that in a second when we actually do the limiting. But this is all I'm doing is I'm just testing these peaks. Now, interestingly, there's no clipping shown on the individual track meter. This will be fine. That's -1.2. That's fine because we've got the ceiling there. But there's nothing clipping going on here. So that suggests to me if there's no clipping on here, then I should just be able to gain this down, shouldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if I just take that down by, let's do 2 dBs. Then what we know is as long as there's no clipping and there's nothing here to indicate, yes, it was triggering the limiter, but we know it will trigger the limiter because you've got the brick wall ceiling there at -1. So anything that's, say, -0.1, we know that's going to trigger the brick wall by 0.9 dBs, isn't it? So as long as it's not clipping, there's nothing here indicating it's clipping, and I think we should be fine with this. We'll just drop it down by 2 dBs. And this is what I was just going back to the whole thing about headroom. As long as it's not clipping, you don't have to stick to this -6. As long as I can turn the gain up or turn the gain down the track without compromising the actual quality of the file. So I wouldn't worry too much around this whole thing of headroom. You've got to stick to this -6 religiously, because we can turn the actual take up or down based on what we need to. Sometimes I may even normalize this. So I've got a peak level, maybe somewhere around -2 dBs, just so I know that, it's at a good volume without starting to activate the limiter unnecessarily, and we know that there's no chance of clipping before we do anything else. So hopefully that makes sense. Shall we just go back? Last stream I said sometimes if you're new to mastering, it's quite a good place to start is actually with the limiter. So should we start there while we've got it here?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's pin it. Let's pin that. Let's get the loudest meter back up.
And we said that we are only using stock plugins and JS plugins. Yep. So from all the limiters that come with Reaper, do you go with Relimit, or are you just using it because it's the newest one? Do you know the other ones?
It's the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
See, my go-to would be probably something like Stealth Limiter by IK Multimedia.
Mm-hmm.
So like we discussed with that one last time, it's quite a straightforward limiter, but for me, I just find it doesn't overpower, and sometimes you'll get a limiter that will really start to. Compromising the sound is probably a good way to explain it, because if it's an aggressive limiter, you will start to compress the track very quickly, and this is the thing, is when we start to bring the threshold down. See, I wouldn't normally link these. I'm not looking at this from a comparative gain perspective. What I'm looking at doing is just want to leave this ceiling here. I want to use the threshold to drive some gain into the ceiling, just so we're increasing the overall track, but we know we're not clipping. So that is how I would generally start with using a limiter. So if normally you'd have to play this all the way through. What I'm going to do is we'll do a bit of a final check at the end. But let's go to, this looks about the loudest part. So let's just take this area here, and let's just use this as our limiting point, just to get a rough ballpark. And I suppose what we'll be looking at on this meter is I want to get the short-term and momentary, probably, see, I would say start somewhere around -10 on the momentary and short-term. And the reason I would give that as an indication, that's going to give a rough ballpark on the integrated around -14, give or take. Once again, it all depends on the track, depends on the dynamics of the actual track itself, but it will put you into a good ballpark. So let's just play this area. Let's see if we can get the momentary here. So this figure and this figure, more this one, around about that -10 mark. I'm not going to aim for a particular figure. We'll go until we feel we need to. But it's just going to be just a general rule of thumb to get us started.
You don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
I'm just going to stop it there. And the reason I'm just going to stop it there, I don't want to push too much, because we drop that down by, the threshold has been -5, and I can see that we're getting somewhere between 1 and 2 dBs worth of gain reduction at the loudest point. I don't really want to push this particular limiter any further. So let's have a quick look here. Let's see if we can go for, I know that quite a popular one is,
by the way, you are already pushing the limiter harder than we did when we put the same limiter on our master track. There we went with a ceiling of -1 and a threshold of -4.6.
What was your readings on your LUFS measures?
I don't remember. We did have the loudness meter there, but I think it was around 17, 18, of course, -17, -18, something around that.
Yeah. See, the thing, when we imported the track, when we played it through, when I was looking at the loudness meter on the first run through, I could see the integrated was coming through somewhere around about -15. So, and don't forget, I've also dropped the track down by 2 dBs. So I can push it a little bit further without compromising the sound of the track itself. And one of the things is, if we're looking at a digital release, we know we're going to be needing to get to a minimum of -14 LUFS on the integrated scale, because that's going to be the normalization level for the majority of streaming platforms. So that's kind of a minimum figure to really aim for. I always say to aim for at least -14. You don't have to squash it and go -6 or -8. But if you go to, say, probably at least -13, -13.5 LUFS integrated, then it's good. If the streaming platforms need to turn it down, they can do so, but they're not necessarily going to turn it up. And this is probably one of the another misconception when it comes to streaming platforms. If your LUFS is quieter than -14 with a true peak of -1, they don't limit, they gain up. But if if the ceiling's already there, there's nowhere for them to gain up. So they leave as it is, and then your track will then be quieter compared to others on the platform. So that's where that's what I would say with that one. Let's have a quick look here. So now we've got a second. We've got the event horizon. I'm going to put that before the rear limit. I'm going to leave the ceiling probably minus 0.3 because I don't want this to be the brick wall. Let's just try. I don't know. Let's just try maybe bring the threshold down maybe 1 dB.
Don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
When it comes to doing this, always work from the loudest part because this is the bit that's going to be the most susceptible to being squashed. Just another quick listen.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
Okay. It's going to give us a good ballpark. We can come back and adjust this. But another reason why I would probably suggest doing the limiting first, certainly for those who are newer to mastering, is because this is the stage where you can actually decide, do you need more compression? And I would probably at this stage suggest maybe certainly not a broadband compressor. Maybe we say just when we're looking at some elements of control, maybe we'll do some multiband on the individual track itself. So I think that's probably a good place to start. We've got a rough kind of idea where we're going to be with our loudness. Now let's take a look at some of these elements individually. I always like to get a bit of saturation in there, like I discussed on the last stream, and let's have a look, see what we've got in the... Have we got any good saturators in here? What's JS saturation like? Any good?
No, I'm not a fan, to be honest, of JS saturation. Psyche, of course, it has some of my favorite saturation plugins. Leandro, anything you've been impressed by?
Not really. The more I played with saturation, the least I understood about saturation. Either I don't hear it, or it becomes overcooked, or it just plain sounds bad. So I probably don't know how to use it. So I don't have one to recommend.
Okay. Let's have a little listen, and I just want to see what we can do with this. So, this is just a okay. So this is just an amount. So it's really the controls are quite limited.
And don't expect to
I'd really
have...
like to see a REA saturation happening at one point. To be honest, that would be really nice. JS Exciter I like more. And everybody in the chat, if you have a favorite JS saturation situation, let us know. I think Toucan probably has some good stuff. I know that you have Toucan stuff.
You can always use recomp and drive it too hard.
See, I don't want to... Oh, that's a channel. Tape recorder. That's a summing preamp.
There's an Exciter plus sub. I've played with it only a little bit and liked it.
This one here, the Exciter plus sub. This treasure, compact, denoiser, delay.
Oh, setup by Marshall is also saying Toucan. Let us know which Toucan. Fat bottom. That's a good start.
So we've got here. So we've got. Okay. Right. Let's bypass this because this is probably going to do what I was thinking of, and what I probably need to do anyway. So I don't know if I explained this last time when I said about using that tape saturator. And the reason I used that tape emulation was purely because it adds mid-range. And it's one of the things I quite often notice is the balance between you'll get low end, high end, but maybe it's just giving a bit of a mid-range bump. And this might actually do the job because looking at it here, we've got frequency selector and we've got a mix. it'll be interesting to see. So as we boost, let's just play it because there's no gain control, is there? And there's no, I know it's not necessarily Q controls, but let's just play it and just see what it does. Let's just have a listen to say here.
We don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment. It's better for your electric bill. It's better for your skin. It's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They stink, but don't be you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
So it's just giving it a bit of a little bit of a kind of like a mid-range lift. It's picking out the vocal a bit more. It's certainly exciting that. I think 100% mix was just too much. Interestingly, did you see the correlation between the input and the output? So the input was at -2, the output's at -3.2, even though the output here is on 0. I mean, to be fair, that's probably actually makes sense because saturation is going to compress by default. But to me, perceive it louder. So it was quite interesting there. What do you think?
By the way, somebody in the chat mentioned the Toucan tape recorder to try as well. I thought this sounded really good. It just made one thing kind of a little too sharp sounding for me, and that's the shh sound, like on shower. I felt like the exciter made it like a touch too sharp for my ears. But otherwise, I thought, it really like kind of lifted the vocals up, and also I felt like the snare, in the song is like playing rims. It made that sound really good.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is trying to use this as a bit more of a mid-range boost. That's probably the way to explain it without actually EQing and boosting. But it's giving a little bit more energy in that mid-range. So let's just go back to... Right, let's try and work this out. I've done my shortcuts. Obviously not. Yes, I have.
This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment. It's better for your electric bill. It's better for your skin. It's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do.
So the old style really compresses, but the warm I think sounded quite nice. In fact, I don't.
Pretty nice.
It's not really, I wouldn't say it's necessarily something I would liken as a warm sound. I actually think it's because it is very much kind of warm to me is going to be more that low mid range. I don't know about you guys. What do you think when someone says warm? What context do you think
To
it
me, it's
describes?
mid-range. Yeah, for me, warm is like 200 to 600, I would say.
Yeah, see, that's to me that's low mid, and I think that's the thing is it's kind of like that low mid. Where for me, you can hear the actual vocals poking out more. Let's play it again here.
Often as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They stink, but don't be so afraid. Once a week may be too little, but there I say, once a day may be too much. Unless you've been exercising, or it's been a really hot day. Everybody now, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to
I got a
shower
question slash concern.
as you
Yep.
So Darren, this kind of like highlights one of the reasons that as much as I like kind of tape effects, I never use them near the end stage, because I feel to my ears like, okay, like the frequency response obviously changes, but something else that changes for me is the stereo image. It felt like some of the side material went away, and to me, like when I'm at the end stage of the mix and suddenly like a monumental amount of change happens to the mix, I never trust it, because I feel like that makes me want to go and control, like, or at least check every second of the song, and it kind of like puts me back to square one. Sometimes it happens to sound good, but it's something I always prefer kind of using on individual tracks. But what do you think? Do you hear like a stereo image change as well when you put on the tape?
I do. I don't think it's the right one. I much prefer the exciter for this particular track. The reason I'm saying this, when you say the stereo image changes, it does, because it's compressing. It's compressing. It's too much. Where you've got a lot of high-end information, the high-end's coming from those acoustic guitars, and when you engage it, and this is why I was messing around with the in-drive and the tape style. When you engage it, it just takes away that high-end, which gives the impression that you're losing width, because they're probably the most panned wide. So I think this could be quite good. I just don't think it's right for this track.
Other people, Sergio suggested the inflator, and John Tidy is saying Sphinx. So maybe we can give those a try too.
Yeah.
We should say that, of course, we wanted Darren to master this in real time, but he is using stuff that he doesn't normally use. So a bit of this is also like experimentation, but hopefully, all this stuff is free. So hopefully you will maybe like one of them more than the other. Hopefully you'll be pointed towards one of these at some point. Good to have in the back pocket.
It's just trying. If you got something like when we tried the last one, sometimes actually with the tape, if you got an overly dynamic master, it probably could be ideal for that, because if you're starting to add compression, you're not going to lose too much dynamics, and it will sound more natural. But if you've got something where like in this case, if it's taking down that high end, you're losing too much. Let's have a look at this one. So this is
that's what I heard, by the way. When you put the tape emulation there, I felt like you put a pillow on the speakers.
Yeah.
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 Definitely. Right, let's have a look at this one then. So we've got a frequency. So this is like a nose. So we've got nose. So, okay, remove nose, a bit more heavy, listen, solo. Let's just have a bit of a play with this one.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't think that's going to do what we wanted to do. What was the other one that was suggested?
Inflator, a JS inflator.
JS
I
inflator.
like Sphinx. I would say like for this mix, maybe that sh sound that kind of bugged me can be kind of controlled. And actually, right now when you had it on, I suddenly heard just a kind of interesting part of the background guitar pop out. Those kind of arpeggios that Leandro is playing, like do 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 ding doo. It just suddenly something about them kind of popped nicely for me.
Yeah. So the way it works, how does the Sphinx work? We're talking about a nose. To me, for a nose, it sounds more like an EQ type thing. So is it like exciting a particular frequency range? So you can obviously move the frequency where you wanted it. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Mike has an excellent tutorial on that on Toucan's channel. So basically, it's like a German term where they say like the sound has nose.
Okay.
It has a bit of like it has some frequencies that kind of like stand a little up front, and this kind of controls them. So I think it's a mix of like a frequency specific amount of compression plus then exciting that.
Yeah. See, for me, that would probably be better for something when you're looking at maybe a vocal. So if you've got a vocal that's overly nasal, I wonder if that could be really good. Maybe something around that 600 to 800
Right.
range.
You would get
Let's
rid
have
of
a
the
listen.
nose.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's have a listen to this one then. So we've got input, we've got effects, curve, clip. Okay, so this is going to be like okay. Let's have a quick listen to what
Sphinx is for removing a notched EQ point. Yeah. More of an EQ thing. Yeah, not really an exciter per se, but it is a very useful plugin. I kind of like playing with it.
You don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this, they stink. But don't be so afraid. Once a week, maybe too little.
So this could be another
That's
great tool.
great.
Do you like this one?
Yeah, what do you think, Leandro?
I hear just a little bit of difference. It is subtle, and it seems to me as like the high end is popping more. So overall, I think it's doing good. I would say we keep it.
the curve to me is acting this. I think I don't know for sure, but the way that you move this and the way that the curve to me, this kind of suggests it's more that's more like almost like a low shelf. That will be more like a high shelf, and this is more of a mid range, because you could certainly hear it if you boost the effects really quite high, and if you move the curve left, it's going to affect the low end more, and right, it affects the high end. This we really want to. The thing with this is the mid range is probably quite important, because when we said giving your was looking at the vocal, I've noted your vocal down here is trying to give it a little bit more presence, and I reckon something like this could certainly is certainly kind of doing that. But I don't want to do too much to the low end and to the high end. So let's just take another very quick listen, and then we'll move on to the next bit.
We don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment. It's better for your electric bill. It's better for your skin.
I mean, yeah, I think it's doing relatively what I want it to do. I think it's quite nice. It's, like you say, it's quite subtle, and I think it's kind of one of those things. This would lend itself very well to mastering, because you don't want to do too much too soon with one particular plugin.
Yeah, I really like this a lot. Good recommendation.
Okay, so let's have a quick look then at some EQ. So for this, I'm going to use re-EQ, because I know I'm not going to worry too much about compression for the time being. I'm going to normally at this point I'd look at some kind of overall compression. I think with the limiting that we've done, I don't think we need to do too much. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think with the limit that we've already got some limiting going on, we've already got a little bit of compression going now. Let's have a quick look here. We want re-EQ. Okay, and to start with, I'm just going to do. When I talk about the low end, let's just see if we can do a quick clean up here. So I just want to put.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment. Better for your skin. It's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower.
So it's once again, it's literally just doing it a little bit on the low end, and I know it's rolling off a little bit here from say 100 down, but actually the main point here around about 30 hertz, it's just taking away some of that real low, just rumble. That's basically what it's doing. It's just taking away that rumble. So we'll come back to the low end in a second, because one thing I want to do is I want to just do a little bit of multiband compression. Let's now take a look at the. Let's take a look at the while we're at the low end. Let's take it. Actually, we'll do the sides now. Somewhere on here, I should be able to add. Can you add another?
Mm-hmm.
You can do another low cut. And let's do this on the sides. And I just want to take, let's take a listen and let's see what's, and this should give the mid-range some more clarity.
This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment. It's better for your electric bill. It's better for your skin. It's better for
I want to hear that on one of the busier parts of the track. Maybe like the end or something.
That's the bit with the most energy. Let's play the end.
Right.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Just take another listen to it one more time, and I just want people to listen out for the bass guitar. And it's the effect this has on the bass guitar and giving that low end its own space to kind of breathe. So when you've got a lot of the low end frequencies coming from the mid range, if we're taking the cut away from the sides, it's going to allow the low end to breathe a bit more. So let's take another listen and just focus on the bass guitar.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
So it's literally just giving an overall, it's just giving that more clarity to the low end.
I really like it. Yeah.
So that's going to be okay. So we've got, I can cross that off there. We've got low end balance. So we're going to look at that with multi-band vocals. So the high end air. Let's take a listen to the. Okay. So what I want to do now is I'm going to start to listen to the high end. And we'll probably just go to the end bit because you've got you've got the vocal in there, you've got the guitars in there. And the things that I'm looking for here is I want to give some more air, but I know that at the moment to my ear, the highest instrument is going to be the acoustic guitar. And I quite like the sound of that, and I don't want that to start affecting the vocal. So for me, logically, it kind of suggests where if the vocal's in the mid-range, then I should be looking more at the a mid-high shelf, then I should be looking on rather than the stereo. But let's just start with a stereo. We'll see what it does, and then we'll maybe change it to the mid-range only. So let's just play the end.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey. Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do.
See, instantly for me here, I would just put it in stereo mode. It's the hi-hat that comes out more than anything else. And this is where, by doing it in stereo mode, you're going to start to obviously affect other elements that you don't particularly want to. It's trying to give that vocal a bit more, I don't want to say a bit more, probably a bit more airiness, a bit more maybe life, but let's just put it into mid-range or mid-zone. Let's just try that.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
So it's just giving that a little bit more air to the top end of the vocal, really, without starting to affect things like acoustic guitars and hi-hats and cymbals. So a lot of that information is going to be on the side, and when we put it into stereo mode, I didn't notice straight away that my kind of perception changed, and I could hear the hi-hats more. So I'll just put a little bit more of an air on the mid-range there. And then we just want to look at, there's a few more areas of the vocal. So let's just have a look at the mid-range. And this could be, I'm going to start off in stereo mode again. Let's just have a quick look. If I put another peak, it's in the mids. Let's start in stereo here. And this is going to be, I just want a subtle bump. Maybe let's just go for maybe a dB. And I just want quite a wide Q. And I just want to give that mid-range a little bit more lift. We'll play with the frequency as we go through.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey. Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Okay, it's not really. I'm not really kind of. I think I don't really want to do too much down the low end. I might play around with the Q in a minute just to tighten things up a bit. But I'm really looking. I don't want to do too much to around the 2K area, and we're probably at 1.5. So it's kind of like, well, okay, well, maybe we'll move up a little bit because the 2K area is naturally going to be quite harsh. So I'll just try to maybe focus. Let's try maybe around 3 to 4K, and let's take a listen around there.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
See,
I really
Personally,
like
I'm not
what
sure
Band
that
4
works.
is doing there.
Yeah,
Sorry?
same. It's really making the strings also pop through way better. I really like it. Yeah.
See, this is great because I was just about to say I'm not sure I like it, and the reason I don't like it, and this is where perception can change. By doing it, what I'm noticing is it's taking away some of the warmth from your vocal. So I think this is the thing when it comes to mastering. Is kind of got these trade-offs because you'll get certain
Right.
elements where it kind of enhances, certain elements that it takes away from. So I mean, to me, it's kind of, it's probably giving a bit more clarity to the vocal, but it is taken away from the warmth. Did you both like what it was doing?
Yes, I prefer Band 4 on.
Great. You're my client. I'll take your word for that. Right.
But I think
But I agree
that,
with the trade-off too.
yeah. So
Yeah.
um,
I think
how much would it change your decisions further down the line to have this on versus off? Because we are talking about a balance thing, and the decisions that you make will be based on what you hear with this band on or off.
I mean, it will make a change a little bit. For example, so if we're talking about warmth, okay, now there's a few things that are kind of coming into my head right now. We could do some form of a little mid boost around, I don't know, maybe somewhere around 300-400. But once again, it's the trade-off then is we start doing that. I mean, actually, to be fair, it may not make too much of a difference. If we do it on the mids only, what I don't want to do is start adding frequencies in that range to the guitars. But we can maybe do a little bit of an EQ boost on the mid frequencies only to see if we can add a little bit of that warmth back in. So should we try that?
Well, wouldn't we end up in the situation where we just started boosting each part of the spectrum one at a time, and then at the end we just boosted everything?
Well, if you're being very clinical with it, like we're doing here, so we've got a low end roll off on the stereo, but actually this is just on the sides only. That's just on the mids only. So we've only got 2 stereo moves. The other 2 are very clinical. So you could go through, and I suppose this is the thing is, it's a decision you've got to make. You could go through tweaking to your heart's content, but for me, I think this would probably be it. Looking at my list, what I made, this probably be the last bit I'd want to do. We've added the mid range in there. We've got the low cut in there. I want to do a bit of control through some multi-band compression on the low end, give it a bit more overall control. There's a bit of correlation between the guitar and the bass that I want to quickly listen out for. We've looked at the mid-range and the vocal, we've given it more presence. So I don't think we really need to do too much more.
Nice.
We'll have a quick look, and if it doesn't work, we can always take it away.
Then as you do.
Right, this bit, I'm definitely going to go back to the beginning of the song here. And the reason why I'm doing this is because your vocal is more present, because there's less instrumentation going on.
A shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see.
Hang on, you just did something interesting. You bypassed and unbypassed a band on an EQ that is bypassed.
Didn't I put it back? Oh, didn't I put it back in? Because what I was looking at doing is I wanted to see the overall effect of the entire plugin. And did I not put it back in?
Yeah, when you were bypassing and unbypassing that band, the whole plugin was in bypass.
Let me go again. Because I thought I clicked it. Let's try again.
A shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin.
What do you think?
I liked what was happening at the end, but in the middle there is that shaker that bothers me a little because of that boost.
This one here?
No, I think it's the other one actually, the one that we were happy about and you were not so sure.
This one?
Yep, band 4.
But you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment.
So where was the shaker panned? Mind you, this is stereo, so it doesn't matter.
I don't know.
So where do you? So with the actual shaker itself, and once again, this is where it comes back to making compromises. So what was it you wasn't liking about the shaker? Was it going away? Was it too much?
Too much. Yeah.
Too much when I boosted the area.
Yeah.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment. It's better for your electric bill. It's better than as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because even the end bit that we liked, the shaker's still present in the end, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you have to say, Ari? I remember that you don't like this region too much, this region of the spectrum too much. You seem to really not like it because you're not even talking about it, Arya.
Oh, hello. All right, here we go. So what I was thinking was a bit of automation. So the kind of higher two bands, we automate their gain. So for the last chorus, they come up a little bit. And in the last chorus, if the shaker comes up, I mean, a lot of things are up. The snare is like going like dynamically harder. There's lots of backing vocals. So it gives the last chorus like a bit of a boost. And yeah, that's kind of what came to my mind as I was watching you do this. That could be a fun thing to do.
Okay. See what we're looking at then. We are looking at. Oh blimey! Look at all these options. Spoilt for choice.
Do the other way. Do like you click on the band in the EQ, and then wiggle the gain on the bottom there.
Oh.
Don't right click on it.
This is it. What this one?
No, just when you click on the band and on the bottom you see now gain Q frequency. So wiggle the
one?
gain. Yeah. Give it a wiggle. And then go to param. Up there. Yeah, and go show track envelope.
Look at that.
Oh no, not there. Even at the top, because that way it'll just show you the filter for gain. It just
this
knows.
One.
Yeah. And boom, that pops it down there.
So what we want then with this one then? So we really want this on. So it's probably.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower. So
we probably want to point around there, don't we? Now I've got to try and remember this. To put a point in is shift and click, isn't it? Right, okay.
Shift click, yeah.
And we probably want it to hit the peak around, so that needs to come down. No.
You have a time selection, so I think your points move together. You can remove the time selection or just right click and drag, or there's a preference you can turn off.
Okay. Right, we'll do this. I'll take that out in a minute. Let's set our second point, and then we'll come to there. So we want it to start there.
you don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to
Peak.
You need to shower.
There. So that's where I want it to peak. We probably want then this one to be Okay. So this we want to be, what do we do? 1.7.
Something like that, yeah.
I really need to work out how to do this on Reaper. How do you set the manual? In fact, we'll just click and drag that, can't we?
Yeah, I have a modifier for that, but I think right-clicking, you get a thing too where you can enter the value. Mike says this totally needs to be used for a commercial for Water Conservation Council or something. Yeah, it could be fun. Let's see. Does it say? No, it doesn't say. Yeah, I have a modifier where you just open a... for me, I think it's command and double click on any point. It just opens a nice dialog box.
Nice.
Where you, type in the value manually.
Right. So let's play it from, say, here, and we'll see what happens here.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
What do you think? Has that done what you wanted it to do?
I liked it. I liked it honestly more when the boost was just present throughout the song. But what do you think, Leandro?
I think that what we have is good. But I also don't want to master by committee. Do you usually have clients attending sessions and...
Very good point.
Yeah, and giving you pointers?
No, but I don't normally do live streams for mastering either, so... Cutting the rough with the smooth. Right. So let's see.
By the way, Leandro, lots of love is going for your song. They're saying it should get a Grammy. Maybe we should submit it for a Grammy.
I am now, since we had that glitch on the stream, I opened the stream here on the phone and I am following the chat. I'm not writing, but I am reading. So thanks to you all for the nice comments about the song.
Yeah, it's a banger, man.
So what we'll do is I just want to focus on this area again. And last but not least, I'm going to go for the trusty old X comp, I think.
Yeah.
And let's go for... Okay, so let's just quickly, let's just bypass these. I don't want these for the time being. I just want the low end. Okay, and this is where we're talking about the low end control. So let's just focus on the real low end up to, what is it, 150, 200? 200. So let's just have a quick listen here. I'm real focused on the low end.
You don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably...
I just want to really tighten that up. So what we're going to do, I think 200, we'll leave it at 200 for the time being. We can manipulate this in a second. Ratio, I want a really gentle, maybe say about 1.6, that'll do. Let's do the auto makeup gain. I want a relatively fast attack and a relatively fast release. And it's, what I don't want to do is I don't want to start creating this real long low end kind of wall of sound that's going to do more harm than good. So I really want to be quick attack and quick release. If I do a slower release, it's going to hold the compression for longer and it's just going to make it sound a bit more probably more EDM, which we probably don't want. So
I have a question about this. It's an interesting decision to me because when people say low end, fast attack and release, distortion comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be really careful with it. You really have. And once again, I think it's just being subtle. When I'm doing control, we're probably only going to get maybe half a dB to 1 dB of gain reduction. We're really not doing much at all. And when you apply a subtle ratio, it's going to be hard to really start to push it. It really is. And how can I describe this? Rather than it kind of, to me, it sounds like the low end is almost like I don't want to say necessarily modulating, but it kind of expands. So where you want it to be quite tight down the middle, it's kind of going like that to my ears. And what I want to do is just kind of just tighten it up so it kind of just has that more control. So that's all I'm trying to do, is trying to give that element of control without doing too much to it, if that makes sense. And what we'll do is we'll literally bring the threshold down, and I just want to get just a real little bit of gain reduction on the low end.
Then as you do, you need to shower, but we don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Right. So what I'm noticing here is the bass guitar. The bass guitar is probably the bit that's a little bit more or less controlled. And we are literally getting up to a maximum of around a dB. It's going up to from 0 to 200 hertz. We're using a very light ratio. I've left the auto makeup gain off for a second, and we'll take a look at the actual gain in a second. But the threshold is just taking away those peaks. And it's just giving that element of control. And this is where I say, if you really focus on that bass guitar, rather than it kind of sounding like it's wobbling, it's just more centered. And that's really what I'm focusing on here.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Were you getting
hear
that?
very little.
It is very little.
Yeah,
it is
very subtle, but it could be also these.
Because literally we're doing, most of the time it's doing half a dB. But it's just, rather than getting the bass wobble, to me, to my ears, when it's bypassed, the bass guitar kind of goes like that, and you kind of almost get this kind of like wobbling sound. And this is what I'm just trying to do, is just getting it actually a bit more tighter, so it's more focused, and it's just a little bit of gain reduction. It's just allowing it to be more controlled in that mid. You're not getting so much wobble; it's more controlled.
I have a question about this. You mentioned that sometimes you just ask people to go back to the mixing stage and do something there. And since it seems like the bass guitar is the main problem that we are dealing with here, is this one case where you would go back and say, maybe compress the guitar or something instead of using multi-band compression, which is also going to affect perhaps the kick or something else?
Yeah, you could do. Absolutely, you could do. The thing for me here is when I listen to the low end, the kick isn't so much the problem, it's the bass. And the bass actually takes over more of the kick. So actually by doing this, we're actually not really doing too much to the actual kick itself. It's more the bass. Now what we'll do is we need to add a little bit of gain in there. So I just want to listen to see how it kind of feeds back in. But you certainly could do and go back and say, I think you should look at the low end, or actually look at the bass and maybe control that bass more, because then you won't have those issues where potentially you could be affecting the kick. If the kick was higher in the mix, then I think it's probably more realistic. That's something that we probably would do. But where the kick is actually lower in the mix and where the bass is obviously the dominant factor, which we are trying to control, I'm less concerned about that. But yeah, absolutely, you could do. And I think it's one of those things is to consider mastering isn't going to fix it. It's about what we can do in mastering, and there will be limitations. So if you get to a stage where if your kick is more in line with the bass guitar from a level perspective, you may find that, yeah, you might want to go back and look at something like that in the mix. Let's just take another quick listen here.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
So I'll play this through one more time. Let's solo the band.
You know what I found quite interesting? Sorry to interrupt. Was that when you had auto makeup gain on, it felt like the amount that it made up was a lot more than half a dB. It suddenly really made it up front. Did anybody else feel that?
And that's why I took it up. I bypassed it and put it back in.
Yeah.
Because to me, as soon as you put the auto makeup, it sounded too much. And that's why I kind of took the auto back off. And I'm literally just putting back in 0.6. Because I think if you use the autos can be good in certain circumstances, but when you're trying to add an element of control, sometimes you don't need to put back in as much as you're taking out. So I think auto can be good, certainly with something like maybe like a vocal, because I think when you're really trying to control the dynamics of the vocal, you really want to push up those quieter elements. But I think for me mastering, I very rarely use an auto makeup gain.
Right.
It's like, I guess it's a matter of workflow, because you could always add auto makeup gain and then lower the gain to compensate for the aggressive auto makeup.
Yeah, you could do. I think it's just the way I like to control it from any element I can. And for me, I just feel it's kind of just testing it. Like I say, originally, I think I put it up by 0.9 and just took it back down to 0.6. And I'm just listening for the balance, where I feel the balance is right. You could do it that way. Sometimes, though, maybe it's actually better to boost up than cut down, because then you'll be you'll be less likely to be affected by being too volume and cutting it and having that drastic take. Sometimes there's that almost kind of like that psychological effect, where if you're boosting it to the balance rather than cutting it, you're not going to be as affected by the higher volume. Hopefully that makes sense.
Another thing that, again, I mean, we should test this, and I don't know if this is standard procedure for multi-bands, but it felt like, I mean, right now we are just doing gain reduction on the low band, but the auto makeup gain, did it boost the whole signal? I felt like it did.
Yes.
So, because maybe, once you have multiple bands going, right, like it will add them all up and do a one final amount of boost. And I don't know if other multi-band compressors do that. I know the multi-band compressor I've used the most often would be the Logic Pro one, which doesn't do that.
Just looking at these settings here, I didn't turn off band 4. So that was still active.
Okay, interesting.
So
And Raphael is also saying Rea Comp and Rea X Comp, they add much more than was reduced. Yeah, that's
Yeah, so
interesting.
hang on. I don't understand why band 4 makes any difference here, because
Right,
band
because
4
the
was
threshold is...
No, because the ratio was supposed to be 1.
Yeah, and there's no threshold. So it shouldn't make a difference in theory, no.
Oh, the ratio is 2.
The default
ratio is 2,
is
but the
2,
threshold is 0. So it's if you look at if we just play it, it's not even hitting.
It's not getting there.
It's not getting there, so it shouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, and it seems like the way that the auto makeup gain works is it is going to look at your threshold, multiply by the ratio, and it will compute the amount of theoretical gain reduction that could happen if you had signal going at 0 dBFS. So that's what the auto makeup gain does. And then, of course, there is a magic number that you multiply this by. And this magic number is fine-tuning done by the developer of the plugin. But it seems like
Yeah.
we don't really like the fine tuning that is in Recomp and ReXComp. And I agree. I don't tend to use auto makeup gain just because it throws me off. And I am much more paranoid about being able to listen each step without gain differences, unless, of course, it is a gain plugin.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't use auto makeup on any compressor because I've noticed that on others as well. Not just it could be multiple developers, and it just tends to the auto makeup just kind of boosts the volume too much. So I tend to do much more by ear. Even sometimes looking at the meters, just looking at the input and the output and making sure I'm just kind of balancing things that way rather than using the auto makeup because I do find there is a tendency for the auto makeup just to be adding too much.
Yeah, there is one plugin that does it a bit different, and it is kind of interesting, and that's ReQ, actually. When you enable auto makeup gain, it will start measuring the level of the inputs and outputs, and it will start bouncing the gain up and down, and then you lock it. And that's
Fun.
That's fair. It is a bit weird to use. And Justin said that he was considering removing this actually, but because it is a bit odd and confusing to use, but it is I guess a more principled way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I've got to say, there's so much versatility in some of these plugins that come with Reaper. It really is good, and some of the other stuff as well. That the other ReEQ. I think it's fantastic to be able to do. I did a video on this probably last week. One of my favourite plugins was the Slice EQ by Kilohertz, because you can do the mid-side processing and the stereo processing all in the same GUI. Whereas if I use something like I think it's the SSL Pro, the SSL XEQ2, I don't think you can do that. Also, the IK Multimedia. What was it? I'm trying to think of their parametric EQ is very similar. I don't think you could do that. You could either do mid-side or stereo. Whereas if you can get something like this, which is brilliant of a Swiss Army knife, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And that come from obviously just somewhat, one of the users of Reaper who got into making plugins and made it for everyone else. I think it's great. And I know that rear XComp isn't necessarily everyone's favourite, but I do think you can get some great results in it. I've used this many a time on different things, so I do think the plugins that you get with Reaper are fantastic. I just want to quickly go through this last again. I'm just going to solo it, and it hopefully just might come across a little bit better. You hear that more? Does that come across more? It sounds more controlled. You're not getting so much of it's almost like a vibration from the bass. When you activate the band, it just feels more controlled, more centered, rather than more it just sounds a little bit kind of more almost like a vibration type thing. Are you getting that coming across with the solo of the current band?
For me, it may just be that I'm monitoring a little quieter than I normally would. It's hard to hear too much, but I do believe you.
No worries. Let's take this out.
Shower, but you shower, we don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do.
Okay, I think that's pretty much all I really want to do with it for the time being. What do you guys think? I think we've covered. We've got some more. So the notes I've made. So we certainly made the vocal more present. We certainly given it more air. The air isn't on the whole stereo track. It's on the mid frequencies only. We've got some more. We've given the low end balance is something that I was mentioning here, and we've done the little bit of gentle cleanup with the low cut. We've done the multi-band compression. We've looked at the mid-range and we discussed that. We've looked also, so the side low end's been taken out as well. Should we have a quick listen to the track?
Yeah, let's do
Well,
a A/B
we'll do
too,
a-
like
There
with
was-
everything bypassed and unbypassed.
That's a good one. In fact, I think we perhaps should do a blind one. But anyway, there was one note from the beginning that is to cut the low end on the reverb. Is this one of the cuts that you did on REQ?
That's the side cut, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the sides basically. You can't really get in there, and it's something that we would probably more look to do. It's certainly something you'd look to do in the mix. So if you was to do say a reverb send, then what you would basically do is cut the low end on the send. So it's taking effectively out. So you're not going to get a low end build up for the reverb alone. That's effectively what we're trying to emulate. But with the side cut as well, if you've got more instruments like your guitars and certainly things like more percussion, things like that are more panned out rather than from the center, you don't always want to load a low end there because you want to have more low end focus in the mids rather than in the sides. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone, so to speak. But yeah, that's probably one you'd certainly want to probably look more to do that in the mix because you'll have more control over the actual reverb send itself.
Yeah. Didn't we do that, Arya? I think we did it. I think we cut some of the low end.
Yeah, and I think kind of part of our philosophy. It's been a while, but in that moment where the reverb is the most intense, there is no bass, so it's kind of nice. Like that space kind of exists. But definitely, I thought that the cut on the sides was a really good idea because it really made the bass kind of become more upfront. It definitely like cleaned stuff up. And I would guess that if we A/B that cut with a goniometer, or just by folding down to mono, we will see good stuff.
Fair.
So should we play? Do you want to play everything all the way through, or do you want me to kind of just go through, bypass certain elements?
So you know what I would like to do is we have a whole chain of processing, and we could do just one alternative chain that is just gain so that the two are level matched.
Well, we can do better than that.
Okay. Yeah, my main point is I would like to A/B blind
You want to
level
blind?
matched.
Yeah. Cool.
I'll use the
Fair
actual, this is a freebie you can actually get this inside of actually I don't think it comes inside of Reaper anymore, but if you go to the TB Pro Audio website you can get the Reaper version for free. But I've got the full version, so I'll just use that anyway. But this is the ABLM. So what this effectively does, it's going to send the signal through this one, it's going to receive the signal through this one, and it should effectively got a pre and post effects, and it's effectively going to volume match for us.
Interesting. Cool.
So let's do. I want to play this all the way through because I'll be interested to see what the loudness meter comes out as.
A shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this, they stink. But don't be so afraid. Once a week may be too little, but there I say, once a day may be too much. Unless you've been exercising, or it's been a really hot day. Everybody now, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
What do you
You
think?
know what I want to do? I wanna. I mean, let me know. Let me know what y'all think. But like render, and then bring it into a project and gain match them, and then we will not share your screen, and we'll just play it, and we'll see who thinks what. I
Yeah.
was too busy seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, for me, I guess I am going to use a vague term, but I think that the main difference is clarity.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially certainly when it's game matched. I just want to do before we do that. If we can just quick, I'm going to take this out. Delete that. Delete that. Are you worried about the loudness? Do you want to see the loudness overall?
Ah,
This is the reading, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
looks good to me.
I mean, to be fair, we've done. This is where I was saying. I mean, we've done that. What from here to here, and the integrated loss is minus 13.6. So we are. I mean, it's one of those things without really going back to the limiters and start to push it. This is where you could actually, if you wanted to get a little bit more loudness out of it, you could go back to limiters. I don't personally feel we probably need to. I think if we start doing that, we're going to start to compress too much. But we know that we're going to be in that ballpark for the streaming. You know, maybe we might want a little bit more, just maybe half an LU just to get it up, because I do know this is going to be, this element here is quieter. We can see that from the waveform, so it may push this back up to minus 14. But, you know, I think it's got us in the ballpark for what we wanted to do today. Do you want me to render this out then? And then we'll do a side-by-side comparison?
Yeah, I
Sure,
really
what
want
do
to
you
do
think, Leandro?
a loudness matched blind test for Arya
Yeah.
and I and people in the chat.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen then.
Cool.
That way,
Sounds good. No one will know. Who's gonna
let me
know?
just quickly sort this out.
And make your guesses in the chat, and whoever guesses wrong, you know, just show yourself out, and I never want to see you back here again. No, just kidding, you guys. You know, it's hard sometimes, but blind tests are fun because you really get to your mind plays tricks on you, right? If you see a piece of tofu shaped like a chicken nugget, suddenly it tastes a lot more like a chicken nugget, I gotta say. So yeah, so blind tests are good. Sometimes you fail them, then you learn something. It's all good. What do you think, Leandro? Do you feel like when you see the food, it changes the taste?
I guess. Yeah, something that really happens to me is that if it looks like meat, then I cannot eat it anymore. When I was becoming vegan, it was a lot more natural for me to eat tofu that looks like chicken. These days, it affects me so much that sometimes they put like on these vegan hamburgers, they put like beets, so it looks like blood.
Oh, okay. Like, yeah.
No, not anymore. So I completely agree.
Interesting. I like the taste of beets a lot, though.
Yeah, no problem with that. It's just trying to look like meat is what puts me off.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, I didn't know that you're full vegan.
Yeah, well, I have been for almost 10 years at this point.
Wow, that's impressive. Um, yeah, that's super impressive, man. Um, did you used to eat like lots of meat or never really?
Yeah, no, lots of it because that's what culture is like
And
in Brazil.
Brazilians are big, yeah, like
Yeah, yeah,
Brazil meat is like, oof.
yeah. In I guess in other cultures it's not like that, but in Brazil, meat is like mandatory on every meal. So I used to eat lots and lots of
Hmm.
meat, and there is even this thought that if you don't eat enough meat, you don't grow and develop. As a kid, I would eat
Hmm.
lots of meat. So yeah, only when I was, I guess, a full adult and started thinking for myself instead of just eating what everyone else eats, that I realized how it didn't fit me. I didn't like it
Hmm.
really. And to transition,
Interesting.
it was great to use these kinds of products that kind of look like the thing you are used to, so the transition isn't as abrupt. Yeah.
Hmm. Very cool. Yeah, 10 years. I think that's the longest I've heard anybody be vegan. Oh, you got some Portuguese coming at you in the chat.
Yeah, Rafael is a very kind of Brazilian name, so I kind of thought
Mm.
that you were Brazilian. Yes, I was born in Brazil, and I lived there for about 20 years.
I think Iran is culturally very similar in that yeah, people are like no, like it's not if it's there's no meat in it, it's a snack. And when my sister went vegetarian, my grandma was really funny because she'd be like, "Grandma, I don't eat meat," and she'd be like, "Oh, okay, so chicken?" And she's like, "No, no meat." She's like, "Oh, okay, fish then." She's like,
Yeah,
"No, no,
that
no,
that
totally
is the
no
weirdest thing to
meat."
me. Like my mother calls herself a vegetarian, but she eats fish. What do you
Oh,
think fish is made
okay.
of?
Yeah,
Lashes?
it's a pescatarian, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I know there is like 1,000 ways of calling things, and there is a whole spectrum and
Nah,
whatnot. But I find it so complicated to find these exceptions. For me, it's much
right.
conceptually cleaner to just be vegan. No products that come from
Mm.
animals. Easy enough. It's one sentence. No buts. No. It's just simpler to me.
Yeah. I am a pescatarian too. I just really love fish, especially in this part of Canada that I am. The fish scene is rocking.
Yeah, same here
Fish
actually in
all
Portugal.
day.
The
Oh, I
whole
bet,
city smells
yeah.
like fish.
Mm,
It's
mm,
not
mm,
tasty, not
mm.
even for people who like fish.
Yeah, I
So,
used to live next. Oh, how we doing, Darren, with the thing?
What I've done
Okay.
is I've got the original file back in, and I'm going to normalize it to minus 13.2 LUFS integrated because that was the reading measure on the render. So if we do
Mm-hmm.
that, add rental items to new tracks in projects. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? That's not going to work. Is there an easy way to do this?
I guess the way I would do it is just render it, bring it into a new Reaper project, and normalize both tracks to minus 23 using the SWS extension.
Yes. We'll do that.
Meanwhile, Arya, how is your new work going?
Newark is good. You may have noticed I'm in a different place. I'm cat sitting for my friend these days. Um, so I'm close to work, doing lots of hours, and yeah, I did a 12-hour shift last night, which is why I'm yawning so much. But yeah, learning lots about like DMX, learning about which is kind of like MIDI for light for those who may not know, which I find to be like a really fun world. Learning about electricity, like amperage and things like that. Wow, Arya, you're really nailing electricity with amperage and things like that. You know, watts,
Did you
volts,
get
you
zapped
name it.
yet?
No. Well, when I was a kid, this is a sideline. I had such a fascination with electrocuting myself, which is not what your mom likes you to be into.
So you
I
didn't have a
electrocute myself
fascination with like
repeatedly.
electricity. You had a fascination with electrocuting yourself.
Yeah, I was really dumb. So when I was a kid, I thought people in the TV are in the TV. So once I opened the back of our TV to see the guy I really liked to see on TV, and then I electrocuted myself. And then I was like, wait a minute, that was awesome. So then I kept looking for ways of doing it. And yeah, so at some point I like lost that thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting electrocuted at some point. But yeah, no, at work, it's really like you can learn about it all you want, but you need to actually be certified to be able to even touch stuff. So even if somebody goes like, pass me that Cat 5 cable, you don't. I mean, unless it's unplugged. But yeah, like operating anything above like 30 amps, you need to actually be certified to use it. But I'm just learning slowly, and then we'll get certified with time too. And of course, you got to wear all the gear. Um, but yeah, it's really cool. Like lots of lights and the lighting console and all that stuff. I find it like really fascinating, and then all the considerations that goes into it. Like, oh, you need to provide enough power to. With audio, we never really worry about like, oh, can I plug into this, and is that enough power? It's never a worry with audio, but with light, it's like all of that comes into play.
I guess we only worry about that when we are dealing with like guitar pedals or something like that, that it may
Right,
be battery powered or something. But
right.
okay, so what is exactly that you do? I guess you are learning about lighting and whatnot, but what are you doing in these events?
Mostly, I'm the audio like operator, or sometimes I just do the setup and somebody else operates. But we still like all like you do a little bit of everything. So you have like a light lead who says, run power there, and also we need like a send from the audio because the audio is controlling some parameters of the lights. And you also just like help with kind of like what we call like striking, which is just tearing everything down. And that's all sorts of things. So it's like drapes that they put up, it's screens, um, and like running also signal for the video, because they do a lot of hybrid events where people are in different rooms on different hotels, and you're syncing the video that they're all seeing. Everybody sees each other, and everybody can talk to each other. So yeah, whatever's needed, really.
I see. So you're not talking about like live concerts. It's more like conferences and meetings, that sort of thing.
Conferences, meetings, yeah, TED Talks. There are like sometimes, if we do like we did an event where there was a live band, um, but they usually just come in. They have their own engineer, so the engineer has their own desk. They just give us a stereo out. We're not in charge of the music. We're just in charge of venue sound, basically.
I see. So the
Yeah.
PA part of things.
Yeah, you can sign up for doing music events. I've not done that yet, just because location wise, where I go to this hotel is really close to me, and everywhere else will be a little too much commute for me right now.
I see.
We're done.
Oh, all right.
We are
We're done. Nice.
We are done. Just a real quick one. Being the Reaper gurus that you are, what is the shortcut for? It's the solo function. You know, where you can switch between in a quick shortcut. Can you remember?
Do you mean like to solo defeat or to exclusive solo something?
I think it might be exclusive solo.
Control and click on the solo button will exclusive solo a track. You can also set a hotkey to toggle solo, and then you like select 2 tracks and you keep pressing that hotkey, and the one that's soloed will be unsoloed, the one that's unsoloed will be soloed.
Yeah, let's bring your screen into the stream real quick so we can figure this out. I guess the easiest way is you can mute a track, and then when you solo that track,
That too, yeah.
that
This
will
one?
be
Solo
heard.
negates mute.
No,
Yeah.
you solo the same track you muted. So you end up muting and soloing the track, but then we will hear that track and not the other one.
Yeah.
Just like
For
that.
2 tracks, yeah, this is the best way, honestly.
And then how do I transfer over to this one?
You
Just mute
stop
solo.
If you
soloing.
unsolo, then that track will be muted and the other one will be heard.
Oh, so all I have to do is just toggle this one.
Yeah,
first
just
one, yeah.
toggle solo on the first one. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right, so this one's soloed then, and then I just I say, okay, great, right. I'm not going to tell anyone what one's what. But if anyone
Cool.
chooses the non-mastered version, my laptop's going out the window. So
Okay.
you will be personally responsible for
High
damages to my
stakes.
laptop. Okay.
So let's do maybe call one A and call one B, and then people in the chat can put their submissions in, and we'll guess.
Yeah. Let me just quickly. This one here. In fact, let's rename this a bit better. In fact, I'm just going to delete these. We don't need those. Remove tracks. Track A. Ooh. Gotcha. Fantastic. Right. You ready?
Yes.
Let's start with track A.
I'd like to do a song of great social and political import.
This is a song about people in the third shower of the day. A song about people who shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They stink, but don't be so afraid. Once a week may be too little, but there I say, once a day may be too much. Unless you've been exercising, or it's been a really hot day. Everybody now, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
Okay, so that's A.
Right. Let's do.
I'd like to do a song of great social and political import.
This is a song about people in their third shower of the day. A song about people who shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They stink, but don't be so afraid. Once a week may be too little, but there I say, once a day may be too much. Unless you've been exercising, or it's been a really hot day. Everybody now, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Okay. I've written my vote down, but I don't want to say my vote yet.
Yes, I did the same. I have it here, but let's wait for people on the chat to give their answers.
Yeah, so far we have one vote for B.
Yep, and I can answer one question here on the chat about these headphones. And one thing that helped me, I also found them like a bit uncomfortable. One thing that helped me, it may sound silly, but what I did is just this. I guess the other way around, right? I did this so that the pads are not pressing against the back of the ear, and they just hold that shape. I find that that helps a lot.
Like you twisted them and then you stuck them somewhere? Like you stuck them with something?
No, what I'm saying is just that if you turn them, they will stay that way. Even when you put them in your head, they will stay that way. So what I do is just I turn them slightly off. So I turn them like this, just slightly off, so that it's not pressing against the back of the ear, which is what was causing me some discomfort.
Does anyone want to play track A again? The only reason I'm asking, the first time playing it through, I did toggle a couple of times between the two. So does anyone want to listen to track A again?
I did notice that something's being toggled, and I thought it could be Video Ninja like messing up.
I thought the same. But here's something. Usually, I guess we hear the most difference in the part of the track that is like, I guess in this case, the end, where there is more stuff going on. So perhaps you can give us that part of the track.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, maybe let's hear A and B on I would say starting at the last verse, but not on the verse. I want to hear that reverby bit before it. If that seems like fair for people.
There. Right. I'll play A all the way through, and I'll come back and do B all the way through.
Sounds good.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Right.
Okay, that was A.
That was A. Now track B.
You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Okay. Any more votes?
I think it's time. I think it's time that we reveal our votes. Arya?
Okay, so far we have one vote for A, one vote for B. Leandro, what's yours?
Oh, the camera cannot pick it up real good.
Exposure, yeah.
Fuck, it's a B. I think B. I think that the B is the mastered one.
I thought the same. Yeah, B, and probably you won't see it on my little wheat paper.
Do you want the results now?
Sure.
Before I give you the results, what made you think B was the mastered one?
The low end.
The low end and also the vocals I felt were lots more upfront. Oh, we got another vote for B. And another vote for A. So overall, two votes for A and 4 votes for B. Okay. Yeah, I found the vocals were more upfront. I honestly, and again, this could be just hearing a little quieter so I don't feed back into the mic. I'm just not hearing too much of a change in the low end. Yeah, the vocals really for me was the thing where I was like, oh, B.
B. Okay. The master track A.
Wow. Crazy.
It's interesting though that it's kind of like you like B because of the low end. But when we mastered it, what did we control?
The low end.
And this is the thing. So if you take a listen, so go here and the listens for the low end.
Now I can show your screen, right?
Shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
So the one with the one that we controlled was A. So it's interesting that you both chose the one that had more low end. Or you?
Yeah. Mage is saying, here is my PayPal. Yeah, Mage got the A. You know, I nearly changed my vote on the second listen through, and then I was like, no, trust yourself. Actually, not trust what I said.
Yeah, it's really it's one of those things because we do like a lot of low end, don't we? Yeah, it's one of those things when we actually did the mastered track, I felt it needed controlling, but yet on playback, it's kind of like when we did the comparisons on the actual master track, it was kind of like we could hear more clarity. Yeah, when you do the volume match and do the comparison there, it's like the low end. It's kind of like because to me it's kind of like you can hear the low end back again, and when you volume match them like this, it's quite an interesting comparison.
And that's actually another point when it comes to volume matching. So now that we know the results, what was the difference there? So you normalized to a common value. How much did it boost or cut the unmixed version, and then what did it do to the mastered version?
Well, they were both normalized to LUFS -23. Okay.
And then the gain boost was what for each one?
Well, you don't. There's no need to put a gain boost on because the perceived loudness will be the same.
Oh no, what I mean is like if you look at the item, look at each of the items, it will say how much like it adjusted them to get them to the same level. So what is it saying for that? If you don't have labels showing by default, yeah, you can check the properties.
It actually depends. There are two ways to normalize using SWS. One is to normalize items and the other is to normalize tracks. So depending on which one you used, you need to go to a different place.
Oh, I did it via track.
Oh, so then you just look at the volumes on the tracks or the gain knobs on the tracks.
Faders.
Oh no, I did this. The way I did it is I did render, normalize to -23, and then add track to add song to track, new track, and do it that way.
Gotcha. So I mean that's another thing that like when you loudness match stuff is a little tricky to do because part of what you did with mastering was to make it a lot louder, and then we went and eliminated that with a match. So it's like a little bit like unfair to the mastering engineer, you know? Yeah. They're like, oh, I boosted it, and now it's like, oh well, let's eliminate that boost and listen to the rest.
Actually, to be fair, this is the interesting thing though. Because if you listen, and this is quite an interesting thing where you got the differences between the LUFS and your peak. Because if you look at the track there, you can see the faders. Track A is -10.9, and track B is -7.
Okay.
So peak wise, then track B will be louder.
Mm-hmm.
Even though perceived loudness is the same, but obviously track B from peak level is going to be almost 4 dBs louder.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the issue. It wasn't the master; it was the peak difference.
Very interesting. I love doing blind tests, cause it's just interesting, right? Like throughout, I thought everything you were doing was really kind of interesting, and then, but yeah, like boost. So the master, or sorry, the non-mastered version was cut 10 dB. Is that what happened? Or no, it was boosted 10 dB.
The unmastered one. See, the way it works, it was coming out probably. It's difficult because it was all done on LUFS, so it was probably around say minus 16, minus 17. So it's lost say 7 LU, 6 or 7 LU.
Ah, okay.
The peak level has probably gone down by somewhere between 6.5 dBs. But the master track, even though it's still minus 23, the peak level's minus 10.9. So that's actually gone down 9.9.
Right. So now let's also do a comparison where we don't level match. And that's really kind of like the results you get, right? Like from a final mix to a master, and then we can get out of here and call it a day. This chair that I'm sitting on is very uncomfortable.
You're just trying to make me feel better now, aren't you? That's all. That's all it is. Item, right? Okay. Insert media file. So that was the. Okay, that's the.
Synchrotron is asking what the dynamic range was. If I remember right, as you were mastering, it was around 4.1 dB, something like that.
Off the top of my head, without going, I'll have to go back and have. Ideally, what we'd do is we'd go back and do a full playthrough of the original track of the original master again, and do it that way. We could just listen to the whole track all the way through.
There is another way of doing it with SWS. You can just ask for the loudness range of an item.
Range, yeah. Bish bash bosh.
And where would that be in the SWS extensions? Is it be
extensions, loudness, and then you select items and you go analyze. And I think you got to right click on a thing and go show dynamic range. I think by default it's not.
4.5 LU.
Okay. 4.5 is really great.
So it's not. As I say, we didn't do. I know it looked as if we was doing a lot of compression. We wasn't.
Yeah.
But we still got the overall integrated well up.
Right.
Right. Let's do. Media file. See it downloads. Oh, you idiot. This is why you don't let why you don't let me loose with Reaper. I will get used to it one day. Is it Reaper?
Yeah, dry run is another possibility. I just saw that your Reaper is 6.66, and I think mine is 6.48 or something. I really gotta update. I just feel like I'm in a hurry every time I open Reaper these days.
There is a script that lets you auto-update, right?
Yeah, but then when I'm in a hurry, it does it without asking me if it's a good time.
Fair enough.
Right. So let's start with the start with the unmastered one to start with.
Sure.
I'd like to do a song of great social and political import.
This is a song about people in their third shower of the day. A song about people who shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They stink, but don't be so afraid. Once a week may be too little, but there I say, once a day may be too much. Unless you've been exercising, or it's been a really hot day. Everybody now, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do. Hey.
Now let's take listen to the
Very
master
nice.
one.
I'd like to do a song of great social and political import.
This is a song about people in their third shower of the day. A song about people who shower before and after going out. This is a song about you. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. It's better for the environment, it's better for your electric bill, it's better for your skin, it's better for your time. Just try it, and you will see that you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. Yes, I too know people who go overboard with this. They stink. But don't be so afraid. Once a week may be too little, but dare I say, once a day may be too much. Unless you've been exercising, or it's been a really hard day. Everybody now, you need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. You need to shower, but you probably don't need to shower as often as you do. As you do.
Nice.
There you go. For
I
me,
mean, see
that's a
now-
lesson. For me, that's a lesson on taking breaks, because when I said that I thought B was the master because of the low end, it is because I was hearing the low end more controlled.
It's when you listen back. See, I don't like the transition we did with the EQ, that EQ boost and the automation. It's too much. You can hear actually hear it driving up. And for me, I don't think it. I think in hindsight, maybe we should have started a much lower, probably. You know, maybe just less of an EQ boost, so you got a more natural transition, or maybe a wider fade in or a longer fade in, so it sounds much more natural. I didn't like that transition towards the end, but it's interesting. It really is interesting. So there's parts of me where at the beginning of the song, I was sitting here thinking, well, the master version, it is more controlled. There is less, but there's a part around here when I felt the bass was really kind of poking out. So it really, I don't know, it kind of really is interesting. But I suppose it's kind of one of those things. If you start taking away EQ with low end, then obviously naturally the low end is going to pop out more in certain places anyway. So where we cut the lows from the sides to give the low end more definition, then obviously it's the natural instinct is for it to kind of poke out a bit more anyway. So yeah, interesting results.
Very interesting. I definitely felt like when you compare the unmastered to the master, now I'm hearing the strings more and everything. And people always say, oh, well, you think it sounds better because it's louder. And I'm like, yeah, but I think it sounds better. You know what I mean? It's like saying, oh, well, this image is now a lot more nice looking because you made it brighter. I'm like, yeah, so now it looks better. You know what I mean?
It's just a few of those balance elements, isn't it? And just having a few of those different elements where, it's trying to add little bits to kind of achieve more balance. But when you've got something that's obviously that had a lot of low end anyway, we're naturally drawn to the low end. And I think that's one of the things is kind of, it's a decision you've got to make. And as an artist, it's one of those things creatively you got to say, well, I quite like it with low end, or I actually quite like a more balanced overall track. And it's then as a master engineer, you've got to kind of do that. So this was kind of a lot of this was obviously my perception of how I perceived the track rather than how it was originally. So also kind of goes and just reiterates that point where you've got to really get to speak to the client and say, well, what is it you want from the actual master itself? Is it just something that's a little bit louder and a little bit cleaner, or is there something where we need to really kind of look at and kind of hone in? Yeah, lots of different things, but there's it's been a really interesting experiment, even though that all you sods said that my mastered track was worse.
So what would be also fun is if there was a C, and the C is your master with plugins that you normally use. That could be a cool thing to compare to as well, but of course not today because we've already been going for 3 hours and my butt's starting to hurt. Um, so people in the chat maybe begin to say, and if you have any questions or comments, maybe bring those up. Darren, tell us a little bit about what's going on your channel these days.
Yeah, well, it's a bit. I've been having a bit of a rethink about some of the content. So it's very much in the past. It's been more aligned with Studio One and mastering in Studio One, and I want to broaden the horizons a little bit. So I'm just going through some different content ideas in terms of introducing certainly Reaper. I've been really enjoying Reaper lately, and there's a few different videos on there where I've been mastering with Reaper, but I really want to expand that more. And then I'm looking very much in terms of a real kind of mastering 101 type course. And I think there's a lot of the concepts around, say, mid-side EQ, some of the more advanced editing functions and things like that they're great, but they're not necessarily the starting points. And I think what I'd really need to focus on is doing 101. So that's something I'm planning now, is to do a real kind of mastering 101. Some basic concepts around, just things around limiting, how to approach broadband compression, when to introduce things like multiband compression, and really trying to break it down to give people a real good kind of, a good stepping stone to kind of then look into some of the more advanced concepts. So the channel it's never been geared around a particular door. I want it to be fully door, what's the word? Fully open to any, yeah, exactly. And give people the skills and the techniques that they need to really to improve their masters. So that's basically where we are. I've got loads in the pipeline. Got some great things lining up with some different editors as well. So some things like, actually with Reaper, you're very, very, very lucky with like things like spectral editing. But it's kind of it's a rarity to have something like that inside of a door these days. So there's a few things around some different external editors and things like that, and yeah, got lots lined up. It's just trying to fit it all in as well. So yes,
fun. And of course it must be like hard to find time as a new dad, but more power to you, man. The link is in the description. Go subscribe, do all of that. When you release a 101, I mean, I'll definitely watch it myself. I really just I enjoy people who dive into 101 stuff because it's so hard. Like it's real easy to be like, hey, here's a cool trick, sidechain thing to the other thing, because then you're just spending time talking about the setup. But really to get into the like root, it's quite tough. So I always, if I don't learn stuff from audio, I learn stuff about teaching it. So I really look forward to checking that out. Leandro, what about you? What you got going on these days?
Well, I am working on the auto mixer. That's still ongoing, and I'm going to get back to it on Monday. And we are doing some auto mixer for video, including an OBS integration, so you can use it live. Very fun stuff. You would be able to switch cameras like I am doing right now. When we start speaking, I am switching cameras manually. The auto mixer will be able to do that for us. And
that's the dream feature right there.
Yeah, well, it exists in a very rudimentary form, but there is a proof of concept in place. So you can drive OBS and switch scenes based on the audio that's going through Reaper. And I am also getting into some electronics. So last week I built on the stream this little analog VU meter, and I'm planning on analyzing that circuit, understanding how it works. And there are other circuits that I would like to do because they are the basics of like a synthesizer and the basics of compressors and EQs and that sort of thing. So I think that will be fun. And that's what I'm up to.
Sick. I love the variety of content you do, Leandro. Again, link in the description. Go check it out, everybody. You gotta if you really want to get deep, if you're looking for some 2-minute videos, do not go on Leandro's channel.
Yeah, no, it's more of like some of it is stuff that I know how to do and then I show how to do. But there is also a whole lot of let's figure out how this is supposed to work. Let's
Yeah.
experiment with 5 different things and see what's the best option. So there is a lot of experimentation. There is a lot of trial and error, and
Yeah.
and it's mostly about very nerdy stuff, so programming and electronics, that sort of thing.
To me, it's the very spirit of live stream. So, yeah, big fan.
Yeah, I am, of
Alright,
course,
check
not
it.
inspired by... I am on YouTube, but I am not really the typical YouTuber. I am more like the kind of people you would find on Twitch. I mostly go for what people do in the gaming communities, speedrunners, that sort of thing. So I don't do a lot of edited videos. I do live streams.
Fun. Speaking of that, we should do a Reaper speed run. I have an idea for that. I'll talk to you about it later. And maybe we stream together again sometimes in the near future, everybody.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I have to bribe you next time so you choose my master.
Any day I'll choose your master, man. Thanks for joining us again, Darren. And yeah, thanks for doing the camera switching and all that, Leandro. And great song, of course. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. No, it's been great, and I hope it's been useful for
Very useful.
Yes.
for different people. And once again, if there's any questions that anyone's got, then feel free to reach out and I'll answer.
If you can, then share the mastered version, the WAV file, so that people can listen without YouTube getting into I guess compressing and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. Is your the Google Drive link, is that that's public, isn't it? So if I add it to that Google Drive folder,
I don't know.
the one
If you want, you can send me the file or something, but yeah, I don't know if you are able to upload to that link. I hope you are not able to, because I don't want people uploading stuff to my Google Drive without my knowledge.
No, that link is just you click and you can download. You can't upload. It's not a folder. It's a single file. So what I'll do is I'll add this to the description of the video, and then Darren, if you want, you can just send it to Leandro or just make a link, and then I'll add that to the description of the video as well.
fantastic, will do.
All right. So for now, everybody, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks to everyone on the chat.
How about you don't take a shower today?
All right, bye.
Bye.
See you, folks.
Thank you for watching the stream, you know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And so we'll be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.